Oh, why hello there. Have you come to learn the ways of the magical world of Dungeons and Dragons? Very well, I shall be your guide. It will take many years of practice and long hours of study to... What's that? There's a stream starting soon. You just want the basics. All right. I suppose we should get to it then, shouldn't we, really? So, Dungeons and Dragons, it's a fantasy role-playing game. And what that means is a bunch of people get together and tell a collaborative narrative story somehow. You have the Dungeon Master, who is both narrator and referee, and it's their job to describe the world and provide information on what these characters may find along the way. They also play all of the monsters and characters that those heroes may meet in their adventures. The players play individual characters, heroes of the realm. They might kind of go with typical fantasy tropes, wizards, warriors, thieves, priests, rangers, paladins, that sort of thing. And using a number of skills, abilities, spells, they overcome the obstacles that the Dungeon Master has to adjudicate. How does that happen? Well, it mainly involves lots of dice. In D&D, it's up to the Dungeon Master to describe a particular scene to the players so they know what's going on. For example, a Dungeon Master might say the players enter a dusty old tomb that smells of decay and rotten flesh. Old tapestries hang on the walls and unlit torch sconces line a stone corridor that seems to lead further into the darkness. Then it's up to the players to simply decide what they want to do. They may choose to investigate the torch sconces or check for traps on the old stone floor. They might decide to boldly stroll down the corridor, completely unafraid of what may lurk in the shadows, or bust out a lute and sing a merry little tune to cheer up their friends. It's completely up to them. There are no set actions for what they have to do. It is then, however, up to the Dungeon Master to adjudicate what those actions and their effects will have on the scene. And if there's a chance that one of those actions that the player wants to take may fail, well, then it's time to roll some dice. So when a player tells a Dungeon Master what they'd like to do, if the Dungeon Master feels that that action has a chance of failure, they're going to ask that player to make what's called a skill or ability check. What that means is they're going to take a 20-sided dice, like this one, they're going to roll it, and then whatever it comes up with, they're going to add a bonus to this dice roll equal to whatever their bonus in that skill or ability happens to be. They'll have that noted on their character sheet, which will vary depending on what class, race, and what proficiencies they have. There's a whole wide range of what it can be, but basically, some characters are good at some things, other characters are good at other things, and that means the result of this dice and the bonus can vary greatly. Once they know the total, they tell the Dungeon Master, who compares it to a secret number that they've set for the difficulty. What sets that difficulty? Good question. Let's talk about that. What determines the difficulty of these checks is really down to the circumstances itself. For example, trying to pick a complicated lock is much harder than trying to climb up of a rope ladder. It's also really up to the Dungeon Master. There's no hard or fast rules for what difficulty you set per action, so really the Dungeon Master has to use their judgment. However, if a player manages to equal or succeed whatever number that the Dungeon Master is assigned to a task, they succeed. If they get less than the number, they fail, and that can have consequences. Let's give an example. Somebody who's trying to climb out of a burning building, if they fail, maybe they just don't manage to get a grip and pull themselves up. They can always try again on the next turn. However, trying to dodge out of the way of a magical fireball, say, failure has more immediate results. Now, if somebody ever rolls a natural 1 or a natural 20 on the dice, that means they fail or succeed spectacularly. Let's give an example. In our burning building situation, if somebody rolls a 1 to try and climb out, they might have additional consequences. Not only do they fail to get a grip and pull themselves up, they might fall over and bang their head. Pretty bad news. If they do roll a natural 20 though, it's pretty much always a guaranteed success, and in battle, it even counts as a critical hit. Speaking of battles, Things work in a very similar fashion with some minor additions. At the start of every battle, anybody present rolls something called initiative. This determines who goes first and who goes last. Battles are fought in a number of rounds, and each round, every individual character, monster, or ally gets what they call a turn. In a turn, a character can do three things. They can move around, they can use an action, which involves things like attacking with a weapon, casting a spell, or doing something crazy, and they can also do what's called a bonus action. Normally this is a special ability or a very quick task. Once everybody has taken a turn, we go to the first player of the initiative again, and a new round begins. The way that attacks works in a similar fashion to skill checks. To attack an enemy, a player simply rolls a 20-sided dice, adds a bonus, which is based on how good at fighting with a particular weapon or spell that they are. If that number manages to beat their target's armour class, which is based on what kind of armour they're wearing, how good of dodging out of the way they are, if that number equals or beats their armour class, then they hit, get to roll a number of dice and deal damage to their hit points. Once somebody runs out of hit points, they fall down, and if they're not healed, they'll probably die. And there you have it. There's a lot of other rules to Dungeons & Dragons, but to follow along with something like a Twitch stream or a podcast, you don't really need to know anything else. They'll normally go over that in the stream itself. If you would like to learn more about Dungeons & Dragons though, you can download the rules for free from the Dungeons & Dragons website, and there'll be a link in the video description below. Thanks for watching, I hope this has helped, and I'll see you next time. Bye!